Welcome to Journeys of Empowerment. I'm your host, Michiel Sujit Rijt, and this podcast is all about amplifying people empowerment. We all want to make a difference, not just in our lives, but in the lives of others. Yet challenges often hold us back. So how do we turn adversity into growth? Journeys of Empowerment brings you real stories and insights from role models who faced struggles, embraced transformation and created impact. Because empowerment isn't a solo journey, it's a ripple effect. Empowerment starts with the choice. Your choice to listen, learn and take action. Tune in and start amplifying your impact. And before we dive in, a quick shout out to our sponsor Neotopia, helping leaders turn behavior change into lasting impact. If you're leading a team, you know how tough it can be to get people on board with change. Resistance, disengagement, old habits, sounds familiar? The truth is, change shouldn't be left to chance. That's why Neotopia has developed a proven methodology to help leaders create real lasting impact. It all starts with the awareness session, a powerful workshop where you discover why behavior change fails and how to fix it. A structured approach to make change stick and how to lead teams who take ownership, not just follow orders. When change is done right, it saves time, energy and frustration and helps build a thriving work culture. Curious? Join the awareness session and experience it for yourself with neotopia.nl to sign up today. In this episode, I had the privilege of speaking with Warner van der Veer-Jehee, a transformative leader in safety culture and organizational behavior. As program manager for safety culture at KLM, Warner has redefined what it means to create people-centric safety in the workplace. Our conversation dives into trusting intuition in leadership, shifting from rigid protocols to empowering teams, and even unexpected lessons from beekeeping that can inspire decision-making and inclusion. If you ever wondered how embracing uncertainty, fostering diversity, and leaning into intuition can drive powerful change, this episode is for you. So grab your headphones and let's dive in. Good morning, Warner.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Happy to have this conversation with you. Glad that you're here. Let's start with, let's just start with the beginning. We met at the 5-year lustrum of OBM Dynamics, a partner company of Joost and Robert. Joost is also the founder of neotopia.nl, our sponsor.
Yeah.
And you were giving a presentation about OBM and organizational behavioral management and KLM. And what struck me was the palpable passion about behavior and bringing out the best in people during your presentation. So that always makes me curious because this podcast is about self-empowerment, about bringing out the best in people, about social impact. And yeah, I thought, hey, Warner, why don't we go into a podcast conversation to get to know each other a little bit better? So yeah, but before we jump in, maybe a brief introduction about yourself and what your role is in the KLM. Let's start there.
Yeah, so I'm Warner van der Veer, and within KLM, my current role is program manager, safety culture, but that's the culmination of a long career in aviation. I've done my conscripted services with the Dutch Air Force. I've worked with Fokker when they were still making aircraft. I worked with Martinair when that was still a viable charter company. And then since 2000, KLM. So a full aviation career. But it's always been very much, aviation is very much about rules and certification and procedures and, thick handbooks. And a few years ago, there was the issue that we felt that we were hitting a lot of safety marks, but some we were not hitting, and they were in the area of something to do with people. And because the colleagues at a certain level, they knew that within the higher management group, that I'm a little bit wired a little bit differently and look at people behavior a little bit differently. And they said, Warner, please help. Can you help us? First of all, in the safety environment, to make it work better. How can we get people to work safely where they do not? And that's mostly in the occupational safety side, because the aviation safety side, of course, is way up there in our performance. But you see, people to take care of themselves in their jobs, we're not necessarily good at doing that every day. So that's how I rolled into the whole OBM thing, because I had some contacts and I talked to some people within Heineken, and I thought, wow, this is really, really interesting, and a whole new way of looking at getting things done, and not going from the audit, risk assessments, and all these super heavy safety management system sort of approaches. That's how I rolled into the world of OBM. I did a training with Joost.
Yes.
Yes, I'm now a certified OBM practitioner. Just to know what it's all about. And that's where it started for me, with a very, very, very broad question. Warner, people, problem, help.
That was sort of the...
Yeah, it was not much more concrete than that.
No, okay, figure it out yourself along the way.
There was a complete blank canvas, and the most wonderful thing that's ever happened in my career, because there was no expectations or no rules, whatever. So there was a complete blank canvas. So it was a really, really unique opportunity.
We will deep dive into what's happening right now for the listeners when Warner talks about this specific moment. It was also in our pre-conversation. There is visibly something happening within you, and it makes you enthusiastic, and you see that it comes from an intrinsic motivation. So what I'm always curious about, and that's what of course part of this podcast, is to dig deeper and find what is the specific reason. Why is this intrinsic motivation happening inside of you? What does it answer for yourself? Because it's palpable, it's visible. But before we dive in, how logical was the choice of aviation? Where does that choice came from?
Most of all because I like to work in an environment where you can touch the product. So a company that makes something, or where it's really clear what it is that you're all doing together. And there's not a lot of industries in the Netherlands that do that. So there's got a lot of service industries and so on. In aviation, and especially my career within aviation has been mostly in the technical side, maintenance side. So this aircraft you can touch, and lots and lots of hardware.
Lots of parts, complexity.
Extreme complexity. And but also complex because in the end it's this person taking the torque wrench and putting each and every bolt on the right torque on this entire aircraft. So it's a lot of instructions have to go right. A lot of people having to do routinely every day exactly the right thing. So that gives interesting challenges. Yes,
I can imagine. Did you read the book that makes me? Did you read the book of Antul? He's a surgeon, and he wrote a book, Checklist, and it was centered around the operation room, of course, but also with surgery. That's also very checklist based. Also behavior, because you have to be very instructional and checklist focused to make sure that every time the safety is assured. So this is an interesting. Hey, but can you share a little bit more about your background? So, was it? Did you study technical engineering, for instance, or what? How did it?
Partly, yes. At school, I was both very good in the Netherlands in the alpha and the beta side. So I was quite good at languages, but also quite good at maths and physics and everything. So very well-rounded, sort of intelligence, as you can say it like that. But in the Netherlands, as a boy, you're good at the sciences. The highest is you go to the Delft Technical University. So that's what I did, and I started doing industrial design.
Yes.
And I managed to finish the first year, but then after that I got stuck, because for the average Dutchman I'm very, very technical, but for the average Delft student it was not so my thing. So going to all the extreme details of the technology was just not mine. That's not my thing. So I switched to a business degree in Rotterdam. I could start in the second year there.
Good.
So I have a combination of some very good basic knowledge, technological knowledge, with of course business MBA. Which is, if you compare to Delft, it's like, you just read the book, you do the exam, and you get it. Coming from the complexity of Delft, it's a whole different ball game. But I always really liked that I've been in Delft, because, I know why, if there is a crack in an aircraft, why you can just drill a hole and then the crack will stop. Why is that? I understand that from a metal crystal point of view. And so a very solid basis in the technology of what we're doing. So I always like that. Yeah.
And can we conclude also that although you love technology and you love science, maybe also the human aspect was missing, because in Rotterdam, where I did my MBA, I found that I like just being in my head, thinking about organizational things, problems, structures, being analytical about it, and how can you solve these things. But the people side, I always thought, you must never make me a male nurse or something like that, because you don't make me take care of people, because that's not good for them. but I do care about people, about are they connected, and that's something I found out in my life, that I do have a very strong connection with people, but not in a very practical caring side, but more in more overall, how we're all together in this world, sort of way of looking at caring about people. Connection about what people do with each other. Can it be how much fun is it, or how much energy is lost between people because they just don't communicate, that sort of thing. So if we start at the beginning of your life, it wasn't that obvious that at the moment that you went to school, that in the end, ultimately, you were going to focus on organizational behavioral management.
No, I would never ever have imagined that I would end up doing what I'm doing at the moment. No, absolutely not. Also because, we talked about it briefly before we did this podcast, that I've lived a life where I just did what needed to be done. And apparently I did that in a good way, so I made a career. But was it what I necessarily wanted to do? I just did what I wanted, what came on my path. Did that very well. But you have people that join the company and say, I want to become the CEO, or I want to really do this. And that's something I've never understood, because I really don't have that in me at all. Ahead, if you get to be 60 years old as I'm now, and only then you find your passion, or that you say, this is really what I want to do. This is so clear that this is what I'm going to do. It can take a little while. I can speak out of experience. It took me 5 decades and a pandemic to discover that although I'm trained as revenue architect, I'm trained as business model, trained as mentor, and always in business development and commercial roles. But if you look into my heart, it's all about connection. It's all about helping people
bringing out the best out of themselves. And yeah, that took me 50 years. So we're never done, and we're always work in progress, I guess.
Yes,
and,
of course. Yeah.
Hey, and but that makes me curious because, what I would love to share is also, and I know it already a little because we had a conversation about it. But what are a few moments that helped you on this path to discover, hey, maybe there is some other thing than only what I'm doing now? What were specific moments? And before we go in that question, I have another question, and it is, did your life go like it went because of expectations of others, or it just went like it went? You know what I mean? So was it expectations from others to fulfill, or was it more go with the flow?
Yeah, I think a bit of both. I'm not sure if I can say that there were some very definite life events that, after that everything was different. Maybe recently in the COVID period, but we come back to that later.
Yeah.
But I've always been a very go with the flow. Also always my next step in my career always sort of came on my path because I got a little bit bored with what I was doing, and then something showed up and like, I'll go and do that. But within my work, I've always looked for sort of approval of others. Is this okay? Can I do this? And that is one big change recently in what I do now with the OBM and all the whole behavioral side. That I've really, that was one very few times in my life where I really made a conscious decision to do things differently. I thought, no, I'm going to take myself seriously. I'm not going to ask for permission because I'm just going to do this. Full stop. Because that's maybe that's what you see, what you see when I talk about this, and why is that? Yeah, I don't know. It's because it's in my heart. It's for the first time maybe that I connected with something that's in my heart, and then not necessarily from a very cognitive in your head thing, but it's in your heart. This is what I'm going to do, and what, how, and why I don't know, but I know that I'm going to do it, and that was quite a very interesting realization that you have that. That you do have that in you, and before it was just a lot of stress and or a lot of stress. Yeah, it sounds very heavy, but more stressful because you're not working from the heart, always looking at others and doing the job right. But it is quite draining energy wise.
Yes, I can imagine. And what I discovered personally is that living a life of achievements is something totally different than living from the heart and going for fulfillment. And for me, the biggest change was all about achievement and all about targets, and because I have a commercial background, and it was all about achievement and also about buying identity. So for me personally, the moment I discovered, hey, Michiel, you matter, whatever, and not due to living in a certain house, married in a certain place, driving a car of a certain status and all. And no, you matter. It's about you. And why are you here? And you're not here to buy the next house and the next watch and the next. It's not about that. It's about what are you trying to help other people? And then I'm not like, okay, no, it's all about achievement. So that was for me the turning point. And everything I do now, it comes from the heart, and it gives fulfillment. Having a conversation, having the pre-conversation, meeting inspiring people, working with communities, helping people. So, and I think that was what I've recognized when I saw you presenting at the 5-year lustrum, is that you can see when it's intrinsic motivated. You can see when people, we light up when it's from inside. And but when it comes to your whole career, what helped you? Was it about the question you got just before the pandemic started? Was that the starting point, or were there already earlier signs that, hey, maybe I would love to switch from what I'm doing more into also the human, organizational, behavioral focused? Was it a clear sign?
Well, before the question I got in the COVID period, because also a lot of the way the organization was going to be reorganized, and also my department was being quite shaken up. So I was quite happy to get that question to do something else. But before that, I was already looking at the OBM, and that was because within the engineering and maintenance department of KLM, a lot of teaming is being introduced. So very much empowering people to take control of their own work. Well, I think Phil 10 podcasts talking about the pros and cons of teaming. But at my Ton Dortmans, the head of the engineering maintenance, said, Warner, you are the head of the safety department, and you do wonderful audits and incident investigations. I'm very happy with that. But now we're going to go more towards the people side. So how are you and your team going to move along with this teaming, more human focused way of running the business here? And I said, well, Ton, I have something in my back pocket which is called OBM. And so there was already a lead there, but that was just within the engineering and maintenance department. But then, pretty soon COVID hit, and I didn't really have time to make it blossom there. But I think my connection with looking at how do people come to work? How do they connect? Can they be the best of themselves? I think before I have had quite a long period where I was one of the founders of the KLM of the Rainbow Network for the LGBTQI etc. Population within KLM, the whole community. But I've done that for 7 years. And only got so far, but I think in retrospect you can see that my main driver was very much how can we make everybody come to work just as themselves? And my driver has always been more the operational people than the office people. Because I think a lot of networks are quite office people driven, but I was really like if you're a ground engineer, you're working in the hangar in this team. What is happening there? Because I was hearing some stories about very very wonderful stories and some very nasty stories. So what is going on there? So one of the things I did was I hired an anthropologist who did very very thorough research. One of these wonderful questions you can ask anthropologists: how is it for gay people at KLM? And she really came up with an answer. And really, really great researcher. Basically, out of that it came that it was more about within KLM. If you were vulnerable, there was not a lot that protects you. So there's a lot of, how you say in Dutch, pesten, so harassing your colleague. There's a lot of behaviors that are not the way you want it to be. And if you're vulnerable in that, and it doesn't matter if you're gay or straight or thin or fat or whatever, then there's not a lot of social guidance or things that will protect you. Anyway, can fill a podcast with that study as well, I think. But there you can see that I was already looking at how do people connect, how much energy is lost, or how much goodwill is lost, and it's so unnecessary what is happening, and why don't we just fix this? But what I've learned there very, very much is that I was a little bit Don Quixote-like. I was against the windmills, because I thought that what I felt in my heart, that it was so obvious to other people as well, but it was not. So, and I was a little bit naive, or maybe a lot naive. So I spent 7 years, running, being the chairman of the Rainbow Network. Lots of initiatives, but sort of supported, but not really by the organization. And so after 7 years, I thought, I'm going to quit. But I learned a lot from that. Especially now with bringing the whole behavior side into KLM. Yeah. I've realized that not everybody sees it the way you do, Warner. So you have to really, really, really take everybody along. So that's one of the reasons we are approaching the 1,000th participant of the OBM masterclass that we give. Woohoo! Me and my team, but it's you can really know your story, believe in it, and maybe you have to convince the top management. But you have to just tell your story again and again and again and again and again. Yes. Just to explain it to everybody, but also to hear what comes back. That's what I really like, because I've been doing a lot of these master classes, and then you find out what it means to be a trainer, because you're going to do the same story with the same jokes. And I thought, my God, this is so routine, because coming from my manager's job where every day there was new shit happening, you had to take your attention. I thought, I'm going to do the same thing again. But then I found out that it was so interesting that every time you get a new group of people, and if you give room for a good conversation, you don't just send your presentation and everybody leaves the room a little bit dizzy with all the information, but you really make room for an exchange. Yeah. I always make a lot of time at the beginning. Who are you? Why you're here? What do you expect? And I always say also very openly, please react. If you think this is really wonderful, I really recognize this, or I really think this is total bullshit, it doesn't work like that, please tell me, then we can have a conversation about this. And having done this with almost 1,000 people now, there's thousands of conversations basically with people telling you how my story, how they hear it and how they react to it. So I've learned so much from it. But that's what I've learned from that over the rainbow period, that it's really, really necessary to basically go on a mission and not expect everybody to follow you, because if you do that, then you look behind you and there might be one or two very loyal people, but everybody else will be way, way behind you.
And then for me it's also when we are passionate about something, or it comes from within and it comes from our personal background or experience or whatever, it's always a challenge that you will always find right away a few people that are right away on your train, or better say on your plane. Yeah. And but you can fly Mach 7. But if the people in operating with a knowledge level and a speed of Mach 3, then you have to make sure that you lower your speed and meet them where they are. And that was for me in management always in the beginning, was the most challenging, because I'm a very fast thinker and actor and doer. And the only thing is, it's not a personal performance, it's a team effort. And if you go too fast and people are not in the right mind space, mindset, knowledge level, about a certain topic, then you for sure miss the whole connection. And also, I think when it comes to the community where you spoke about, is there's also I believe, societal moment. 15 years back or now is a total different ballgame. And so that's also, you were a real pioneer within, I think, the KLM to move the needle. And if we start now in the society we're living now in, it's, I wouldn't say necessarily easier, but it's more accepted that we talk about openly about a lot of challenges the community is facing, right?
Yes, that's right. But I think that or other organizations that were a little bit quicker to pick up the ball. But at the moment, KLM is doing very, very well. Of course, historically we had many. People think at KLM had to be gay, all those guys in the cabin, but there's a lot of other things happening at KLM. If you're gay, lesbian, and all the other identities, but what I've also learned is, you can go at this from a sort of anger perspective, that things are not right and have to be right, and you're always angry and disappointed with people, how things are not going the way you want to yet. But that's another change I think I made. That I'm focusing more on what goes well. And that's also a very OBM thing.
Yes,
but also in selling your story, you can say all these things are wrong, and they have to be better, and we're really bad, and this company is doing this and that, and it becomes a very heavy, boring story. And you think, I've got all these other things that are also very difficult, and this, now you tell me this other very difficult thing. So it's not a way to switch, especially very time pressured managers on. But if you say, hey, I've got this idea, and I've tried it out, and it really works, and people are enthusiastic, and it can really help, and here I have an example, and what's happening in your organization, and how might that help you? Then people come back and I could do. Can I try and make it light, but be very positive in a realistic way, of course, about what you are achieving. Of course, I've been at it at 3 years now at KLM, and I would have liked to be way further, but
further than 1,000 in 3 years. But it's very ambitious, eh?
Yeah, but to roll out a program, you wish everybody. What OBM can bring, but it goes the speed that it goes, but then celebrate everything that's happening that goes right, and that's just a much better way to sell your story than oh my God, I'm 3 years on and we're still struggling with this, and that is still not happening, and that division is not doing anything, but so much is happening that is so positive, and go from there, and it also makes yourself much happier if that's that's the glasses you have on, looking at the world.
And some personal questions. And what is your personal? Can you share your love about bees? Because that really it really struck me, and I just got a beautiful gift. A candle out of bee wax, out of your bees wax.
Yes,
it was really a beautiful candle, and with roses on it.
Yeah.
And but what is your passion? Where does that come from? Is it a long-term passion, or short, or when did it start?
I always say, be careful if you're going to ask me about bees. I'm going to talk 2 hours about something else that you intended.
No, please do so, because I believe there's also a similarity in behavior, or what can we learn about behavior.
No, absolutely. Yeah. When I started with beekeeping, because it became many years ago. The bees were being trouble, and beekeeping became a thing. And I've always been connected with nature. I was always doing my plants in the garden and growing tomatoes, and I always had a thing with plants and nature. And also in my life, sometimes you get into routine, you get a little bit bored with things, and I need something new in my life. I'm a Gemini star sign, so I'm easily bored. So I always need something new in my life. So from many years ago, I started doing a course, Spanish course. So
of course.
I did 3 years of Spanish, and just to do something new. And but here, in this instance, I thought, well, I'm going to take up beekeeping, because it's just something to do. Seemed nice. And but I did a very regular beekeeping course, which is basically aimed at making as much honey as you can make. So, but it wasn't really focused on the nature of the bee. And then, I was learning all these things, that bees are really difficult. They were always making life difficult for the beekeeper. And it was everything was a big hassle. And I couldn't really go away on a holiday in May because the bees would be swarming, and I had to prevent that. And everything was difficult with these bees. Okay, but you could make a lot of honey. And so... Yeah, but I think that's the way beekeeping is. But somehow I got into contact with people who were more into biodynamic or more natural way of beekeeping, and I started to dabble a little bit into that. And then I thought, wow, this is much more interesting, because these are people that look at a hive of bees from the whole, what is happening here, and from the wonder of what is happening there. And they don't look at the individual bees, but they look at the whole thing. And I've learned so much from that. And the connection there, very much for me with OBM, or the way I look at the people, the world, is that bees are they're a mirror of how humanity should behave, I think.
You think so?
Bees are totally egoless. They work together in the most effective way. They share all food, all information. Just how can we, as a hive, survive in the best possible way? So and they're always working very hard, and they are a mirror that
egoless
humanity could look into. And in one interesting thing, because if you get into natural beekeeping, biodynamic beekeeping, you get into also anthroposophic conversations, and people are very spiritual and talk to the bees, and the people say, they ask the bees, "Oh, how are you? Because you're doing very badly over here," and the bees say, "Oh, don't worry about us. How are you doing?" And that's also, I think, the way the bees are a mirror to us, that we are really fucking the world up. So don't worry about the bees. We should be worrying about ourselves.
Yeah, we should. We should, for sure. Yeah, especially now.
Yeah,
But that makes me curious. So what can bees teach us about leadership?
Oh, interesting. Yeah, well...
and teamwork and personal. Teamwork, you just explained a little bit, the egoless and working together. But about leadership, what is your vision about leadership and bees? What can we learn?
No, I think one important lesson is you don't necessarily need one leader to make perfect decisions. Because a lot of people think, there's this
the queen bee is the leader.
Queen bee, And
I thought so.
200 years ago, people thought that it was the king bee, because he's the biggest one and must be the leader, so it must be the king.
Male.
Must be the male. So it's, I think only 100 years ago, people found out it's actually a queen. And but basically, she takes care of that. That hive feels harmony and feels as a whole. Very simply, she is the. She just lays eggs a lot, and she's not in charge, because the people who are in charge is the worker bees, the female worker bees, are totally in charge. And in winter, all the drones, the male bees, they are chased out of the hive. So
drones,
they're not there. And so, but in summer you have the queen bee, worker bees, and the drones. But the worker bees, they decide everything. And maybe when they go swarming, it's a very good example of how you can make a perfect decision without a leader. If you can imagine, if bees they swarm, that about half the hive with the queen, maybe you've seen it, a huge cloud of bees in the sky, very impressive, and then they cluster together and they hang in this tree or on your bike or wherever they find a moment to rest, because they fill their bellies with 3 days of honey. So they have 3 days to decide where they will go. But where they will go is a life or death decision for them, because they have to find a hollow space to build a new nest, to build a new honeycomb. And they can do that only once. This trick, they to find the perfect place and to build a honeycomb and to restart. In the wild, 80% of the swarms die, because it's that difficult to do it right. So pretty important to make the best possible choice.
Decision, where? The location.
So you have about, it can be 10, 20,000 bees, even 30,000 if you're a really, really big swarm. Bees hanging there, all clinging together, all hanging on each other. That's also interesting. And then how do these tens of thousands of bees decide where to go? Well, the way they do it is that there are 10, 20, 30 scouting bees that go out. And they go. Bees are very good at checking out the landscape, and all these bees, they will go out and see. Okay, I find this hollow space, this hollow tree, or this hollow wall, or this wherever nice space, and they come back, and they do this bee dance that people sometimes know. They also do it when they find nice nectar, and they have to go there. But they also do it for they dance for this wonderful space they found. We should go there. But then they say, hey, but this other scouting bee is also dancing for another space, but he's dancing a little bit more enthusiastically than I am. And so why don't I check out that other space? And that's where the egoless thing comes in, because they're not connected. Because I've looked at this space. I'm this bee. I know what's good and what's not good. So this is my assessment of the situation, and I just give that very sort of objectively to the other scouting bees, and so I dance about a certain amount of enthusiasm, but not about everybody has to like my place. That's just totally not happening. Now he goes to the other place and this is actually better than what I found. So I'm going to dance for this place. So it can be very quick, but it can take up to 2 days before they really decide where all these scouting bees, the 20, 30 scouting bees, they're all dancing for the same spot. Because they've all looked at all the other spots and said, now, we really agree, this is the best one. And then they say, okay, now we go. And now, hop, they go and they guide all the other bees to go there. So how can you make a fully
democratic?
You delegate,
and
then you say, okay, whatever you decide, everybody's going to do, because we know that these 30, 40, 50 bees, they will make the best possible decision, and we go for it. But there's not one that says, now I will take the final decision or something like that.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. Many stories in the beehive like that. Yeah.
Oh, great. Yeah, I'm really curious about also your book you brought. You are co-author of a book, so I'm really curious about what can I learn about the bees there, and fascinating. And you strongly believe that we can learn a lot about leadership when it comes to looking at bees and being in nature. And
also because if I really like to look at my bees, and then after many years, that bees are coming in with a certain color of pollen. That tree is now blooming because it is this type of pollen, this type of year, and you really start to see more and more that everything in nature is 100% connected in many subtle ways, but as people and humanity, it's the same, we're just as connected. And if you start to look from that perspective, that makes me happy.
Yeah, beautiful. You can see it, obvious. If people are listening, and I can imagine, what for me is interesting is that when I see you presenting charismatic, as you are, and then you see somebody who's really passionate, really driven, really trained, highly educated, on a mission to share the knowledge.
I'm blushing.
I'm blushing. Yeah, that's really what I saw as my perception, and the perception of many who were there. And on the other hand, trying to imagine that you had a long-term struggling to make your own really decisions. In hindsight, it's always easy to talk in hindsight. I should have done this or this, but if it resonates with listeners, is there somewhere a sort of advice to do or to talk with people, or what might have helped you to find your path earlier, maybe? Do you think there's a sort of advice for the younger you, maybe?
For the younger me? Well, I think one advice I would certainly give the younger me, but to anyone, because I think the current society, a lot of emphasis is put on numbers and facts and figures, and we've lost a little bit sight of intuition. And I think there is what I have learned. Let's put it that way, is that my intuition is very strong and always right. And it takes many years because if you feel something intuitively, but you cannot explain why you say let's do it this way, because you feel it, you know it, but you can't put it into words, and you are in an organization that is very much like, please tell me exactly why this is a good plan and the strategy, and give me the presentation and so on. Then you get lost a little bit. Think, I'm not a good manager, I'm not a good colleague, because I'm not so concrete about what I want. I cannot verbalize it in the best possible way. I just feel it. And but then after many years, because every time I strayed from my intuition, sooner or later, and later could sometimes be like 5 years later, I thought, but I should have listened to that inner voice, because it was telling me to go there. And now I see 5 years on, what we did then. I listened to other people, and I wish I had listened to my own voice. And that's something you learn after many years. And it's also a sort of slow growing sense that, actually you do matter. You can make a difference. What you find is actually valuable. That's also something that really had to build up. I didn't get a lot of self-confidence from my early childhood. So I was always looking for others for, basically approval. And so it sometimes takes a lifetime to build that up from scratch, just to think, hey, my intuition is my strong point, is a really real force that I can rely on, and it will always help me at difficult moments in my life. Why do I make this choice? Well, it just feels right, and it's always turned out right. So and that's fine. So don't think that you always need to be this person that can tell everybody else exactly why and how things need to be done. There is another way to guide yourself and others. And another very important thing in that is not knowing so sure exactly what needed to be done. I was always doubting things. I was never sure. But is this the right thing to do? How do I know? I don't know, how can anyone else be so sure to do this? And of course, it's very attractive if someone says, oh, there's a problem, this is what we're going to do. And it's very attractive. Oh my God, I panic. I have no idea what we're going to do. But this person is telling us to do this. Oh, great, we'll do that. And okay, and if it's wrong, well, it's his or her fault. but anyway, someone takes the lead, and of course, that can be very helpful, of course, in many situations. But so you need that type of people in an organization. But I think it's also nice to have people in an organization who are more doubting. If you ask me a question, I will say, I have no idea, and it just starts a process in my mind, and I start wondering, and I think, oh my God, how am I going to ever solve this? I have no idea. But what that triggers in me is I'm going to talk to people. I'm going to conversations, can be privately, but or in the organization, in the business, colleagues. And from that, I build up a picture of what other people think about this problem. I think, now I'm starting slowly to understand better what is needed here. But also from the connectedness that you get from having talked to all these people, because people give you so many different perspectives, and sometimes completely contrasting things. You think, oh wow, how interesting that people can look at the problem so differently. But it's so valuable to take in all those things, and then you can, and then everything. My mind works, and it just goes in, and then something comes out, and I think, let's do this, and then that works. That always works out well.
Beautiful.
But it's not something you can teach. Do it like this, And I have many colleagues that look at me like, I don't know how your head works, but it's a mess.
No, do you think you have a more creative mind than you thought before? So it sounds creative because it sounds. Being in a highly engineered environment, super engineered environment. Yeah. Yet, how you just explained your mind works is also, it's messy in the middle, and then in the end there's a straight line, and then we go for it. But the whole process is always, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of what I heard, a lot of curiosity. So you approach your approacher, and I think that's a superpower. Edith Eger once said, she's the author of 2 beautiful books, The Gift and the Choice, and she survived Auschwitz. And when she got asked, okay, what is the number? How did you survive? And her answer was beautiful. It was curiosity. That was my survival mechanism. I always stayed curious about people, about what happened, and always asking questions. And I think if I go back to what you just said, it's about curiosity. You embrace curiosity.
Yeah, absolutely. And unlearn that you think what other people think.
Ooh, but this is interesting. Unlearn, that is not a superpower of many of us, including ourselves, I guess, because how do we unlearn? That's the first challenge. And then to think about people, what they think about you, for instance.
Yeah, well, about me or the other things. So you think that a lot of people are thinking about you. Well, I can tell you they are not.
And so in short,
spotlight bias. So you think that everybody's super interested in what you're doing.
No,
well, they are not.
No.
So that's a very that gives a lot of you can relax. And you can make many mistakes, because a lot of people are also making many mistakes. And you're tolerant of them, so they're probably tolerant of you. But also not judging what other people do. Maybe an example from something completely different. I was at a concert this weekend at the Concertgebouw. Beautiful, famous singer on the stage, and in the middle of her performance, a lady completely at the front of the audience gets up and walks out. And you think, before I would have thought, my God, how can you do this? You just don't do that, But I've learned that maybe you don't know what is happening there.
No.
Maybe she feels like I'm going to really cough and I don't want to do that. So the best thing for me is to go out, or whatever is happening with her. You don't
know.
No. You don't know. So I don't have an opinion anymore about things like that. So it's a very concrete example. But
yeah,
I think
it's a beautiful example.
You recognize it in your life all the time, that you think, why does this person do that? You just don't do that. But everybody usually has very, very good reasons to be doing what they're doing. And maybe that's also a nice connection to OBM. Because basically that very simple thing is what me and my wonderful team, Shelley and Helene, are doing in KLM. Is if I talk to managers and say, Warner, OBM, what is that? I said, you should stop being surprised and amazed at what people do, and you must start wanting to understand. Because what we find is that absolutely everybody is engaged fully, except maybe not in the way that is convenient for you. And just if you want certain behavior, don't assume that people are disengaged, or assume that people are disinterested, or assume that people don't want to do it. Just go and talk to them and ask them, what is stopping you from doing this? What is helping you from doing this? People will tell you. Mm-hmm. And then you got your job right in front of you.
Yeah, and they will feel seen, heard, and appreciated that you take the time to just dig in and ask the questions, right?
Yeah, and what I find, it moves me that when people say this is the first time in like 20 years that anyone has asked me this question, you think like, what? How does this organization work? So many things come top down for all these people who think they know what needs to be done. And of course, from a company perspective, because that's of course where the tension comes from, the company needs things done, needs this change or needs this productivity, whatever. People understand that fully. But what is usually lacking is a translation of what needs to be done for the company into, but how is it for the people that have to do it every day? How does it translate to them? What do we need to do to make it a happy thing for them, to do it in a way that is helping the company? And usually that is quite forgotten, because I think a lot of managers, I'm going to say something not everybody's going to be happy with, but I think a lot of managers have a positive work disorder. They totally switched on to the company, and what the company needs, I will do. And wonderful. That's why you become a manager, because you manage all these problems, and you think that's wonderful. And great, thank you, manager, that you give your life to the company to make it work. But not everybody in the organization on the work floor is switched on in that way. They just want to come to work, do their job with their colleagues, and they actually have to do their work and not make plans, which also is easy to make an abstract plan, but they are there standing. They have to make it actually work. And that's also, I think, why LBM is very, very strong in implementation of things, because you get down to the dirty, and because you got this wonderful plan, but is it very, very clear what it is exactly what you're asking of people? And that's a conversation we're having all the time, but it's not quite so clear. And then, but have you asked people, can they do it? And or is there things that's stopping them? Or what can we do to recognize them when they do it? And but that's also why OBM is so easy to sell, because it's so basic and so ezy to understand.
And yet simple, not easy to do.
Yet it just doesn't happen, and it's not easy to do, because it's so different from the way people usually do things, and so the only way to learn it is to experience it,
and have positive reinforcement experiences, and then it'll. We're a dopamine. We need dopamine experiences.
Absolutely. Now, what's also interesting for people to realize that they're OBMing every day, except unconsciously. They are conditioning behavior every day, all the time, except they're doing it unconsciously. And isn't it nice to do it with OBM? consciously. Because why are these people doing everything not the way you want them to do? Yeah, because you are sending signals that you're not aware of in the whole organizational structure that makes people do the things the way they do them.
You mentioned assumptions. The question I ask myself about assumptions right now, having this conversation, is why do we assume? Do you have an answer about that? Why do we so much easily assume?
Well,
and always.
Because I think I did after my OBM education. I did also Behavior Change Academy. Also super. Thank you, Rick van Baren and colleagues, for what they taught me. But that is about thinking fast and slow. It's you have to assume, because you cannot make a study about everything you do every day. I'm going to drink a cup of coffee. What is the best cup of coffee? With which cup am I going to use? And now I always use this cup. And this is the coffee that everybody buys, so I'll do that's probably good.
I assume that it's probably good.
I assume it's good.
Yeah.
You just need to save energy for those few decisions that really take up your full attention and energy. And that's just how our mind is programmed. You can read Kahneman.
Yes, I've read it.
Yeah, wonderful books about that. But so that is how we survive in a complex environment. You assume this is probably the right thing. All these biases, where you go out for dinner. This restaurant is full, so I assume the cook is good. Mm-hmm. No idea.
High prices, Michelin star, and Michelin star.
Maybe the half-empty restaurant next door is much better food. But how are you going to find out? So usually those assumptions work out quite well. Of course, not always, but you just need assumptions to go about every day. But if that is what you the only thing. But it kills curiosity. But it's we like things that are recognizable. We like routine. We like people that look like us. So that's why also Rick van Baren, this professor, he said, Warner, diversity and inclusion. Good luck. It goes against everything the way we are programmed as people. The thing we like the most is someone who looks exactly like us, who talks like us, makes the same jokes. That's what we like best, because it takes the least energy out of us. So if you go the other way, know that what you're up against. So how can you make it attractive to do something in a way that takes maximum amount of energy out of you? So for me it was one of the things like, wow.
To come back also to the community you were heading, there lies I assume there was one of the challenges was right away this challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, of course, these things are not all set in stone.
No, nothing is.
And I think some things they change over generations. And if you try to too hard to push to change it within a generation, it's not going to work. I think I was also this. Yeah, you can push diversity and inclusion. Of course, that's good. You put something out there in the world. But I was also this weekend talking to a very good friend of mine, and she's a school teacher, and she said, Warner, at school, these kids, they just say, if a kid is I'm transgender, or you can please say they to me or them, or the kids, they just do it, and it's all great, and it's now a boy and now it's a girl, and these kids say, no problem. So I think it's just also a generation. Sometimes things just take time, and if you try to push too hard, then you get a pushback, and then you get what's happening, I think, in certain places of the world right now. And so I think you have to be loving of everybody in this world, in their in their state of mind and their state of consciousness, and be very tolerant of basically everybody in the world, even if you don't understand the other person. But he's also there.
Warner, we can easily talk for hours, and since we are heading towards the end of our first conversation in the podcast, we touched upon so many things, right? It is clear we touched upon behavior as a business case, but also a culture of inclusion. We talked about the discovery of self-acceptance in a way, navigating identity in a corporate organization, also about intuition, very important. Listen to your intuition. Also the struggling in decision making and seeking permission. I really admire and also appreciate your openness about that, because I can imagine we all find this challenging. And if I look to myself, I was always busy with not asking, but always with a high form of validation.
Yeah, absolutely.
High form of not necessarily waiting, because I didn't wait, but doing all the things ultimately to get the validation. Hey, you're worthy, and you are, you're worthy. You matter, and now living in a big student house, I feel more mattering. I don't know how to say it. Than living in a posh house and a Porsche car, and so it's all about ultimately in a sort of journey of self-acceptance who we are.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody matters, and even if you're in a very, very big system that feels like, why am I working in this system? Why do I keep working here? And it can be a question to yourself: what am I supposed to learn here? It can also be a mirror to you, because it's always something in yourself that if you're so annoyed by something, that it's something you have to learn in this life. But also, I've learned, don't fight the system. We talked about this before. Don't fight the system. It's there. Accept it. But one of the things I was wondering after our first conversation, Michiel, was that the image that came up is that on Netflix there's this series called We're-Jehee. Some drag queens from RuPaul's Drag Race, they go out into some communities in the United States that are not very drag friendly, to say the least. But what I found very interesting, because it's very dominant in these places where they go. So We're-Jehee on Netflix. So they go to this little town. And there's this super, super conservative system there, and people struggling within that system because they're queer and whatever their identity is. But they go out and they go and find these people. But you see that there's a whole other community there, and they just give it a voice, because they organize this big drag event and they drag up some locals, and then every time it's so interesting to see that they're within this apparently super conservative system, there are many people that think differently, but that is just not out in the open, not in the surface. They keep it within themselves. So, and if you go out and find people who are like you in this world, you sometimes think, well, how does it all work? And bring that together. You can also do that in an organization where you think, how can this be so technocratic, or how can this be so whatever way it is different from you where you are. But there are people out there in this company that are exactly like you, that also are more spiritual or more vague in their thinking, or intuitively go out and find them and build your own community. And I thought that was very, very inspiring.
Warner, thank you very much. I have seriously nothing to add to the closing of this conversation. Beautiful, and thank you very much for being here.
Okay, thank you for inviting me.
Oh, and before we go, I want to introduce someone with a vision that might just change the way you see travel. Meet Virginia, the founder of Genie, where travel isn't just about places, but about people, purpose, and impact. She's on a mission to empower those often overlooked, turning journeys into opportunities for change. Right now, she's in the midst of a 6-week crowdfunding journey to bring this vision to life. Virginia, tell us, why does this matter? And how can we be part of it?
I'm Virginia Schelen, founder of Genie, an impact travel company on a mission to create greater equality through travel and storytelling. At Genie, we design package trips, retreats and workshops that connect people across cultures, while empowering the overlooked. Think of people of color, queer folks, those with accessibility needs and many more. All while we ensure our destinations thrive and make local communities part of the impact. So let's be real. Tourism has its downsides: environmental harm, mass tourism, and exploitation of resources, animals and people. That's why we do things differently. Every Genie experience leaves an impact, whether through action or direct financial support. So, to make our mission, greater equality through travel and storytelling, a reality, we started a crowdfunding round. You get the chance to help us shine and drive real impact. Here's how. You can make a contribution. Big and small amounts mean the world to us. So if you're planning a trip, check out our trip rewards. Second, please share this story with 3 people who might appreciate this. Third, if you have any connections to well-known impact-driven leaders or advocates, please connect us. Together we can make travel a force for change. Join the Genie movement today.